Hey guys, Daniel Hyde here with Hing Sing School of Kuan Dao and Honest Tai Chi. So today I want to share with you guys my martial arts journey. I'm going to try and keep it pretty much like some of the essentials. However, I may get long-winded with this because there's a lot here. There's a lot here. So I started off my journey in martial arts because I was bullied a lot as a kid. I was bullied a lot in school, as well as a lot of it really at home. So, trying to get a little bit of more confidence and to be able to kind of handle the, stress of my upbringing, so to speak. I started going to karate classes, or my grandmother put me in karate classes. The very first person that I studied with was Sensei Jim Cooper, I believe. Out of Wadsworth, Ohio, and one of the things that I really distinctly remember about the guy is he had 1.5 arms. So whenever we would spar, he would have a glove here, and I think his forearm used to go basically about to here. So what he would do is he would kind of trap somebody's arm with his nub, and then just really wail and go on him. And I just thought it was really cool. His kicks were amazing. His technique was really, really fantastic. And he was, pretty good. Very stern teacher, but he really established some strong foundational stuff when it came to, physical conditioning, right? So we used to do a lot of push-ups, a lot of squats, and, a lot of really good, two-person techniques and a lot of drills in the karate practice that I started off with. So I did that for a number of years. I think it was either junior high or high school that I started that, somewhere around there. And then the karate school moved, and then I started doing Kung Fu after that. So I started doing the Kung Fu practice. I started training under Sifu Dave Sial, or Dave Kyle, who's still my teacher today, and I still train with him. So when I started the Kung Fu practice, it was really something, because I distinctly remember walking into the school after I'd already had a couple of years of karate. And one of the first things that I was wondering was like, man, when are we going to get to spar here? I was a teenager, I had a chip on my shoulder, right? So I thought I was some tough stuff. And Dave very quickly showed me that I'm not. And so he really, did a good job of kind of putting me in my place. And then after, really kind of just seeing his ability to move, his speed, his power, and also his control, then, I started to say, okay, well, let me give this Kung Fu stuff a shot. A couple of my other friends had, switched over from the karate practice to the Kung Fu practice. And it just so happened that, when he opened the school to the other spot where my karate school used to be, which was just up the street from my house, so it was an easy commute. So I started doing the Kung Fu practice at that time, and I very distinctly remember the first class we did stances, right? So stance work, and I'm like, what are we doing all this mess for? Like, come on, this, when are we going to get to the sparring? When are we going to get to the contact, and so on? And the classes were very difficult, right? It was a lot of material, really fast, and if you didn't train at home on your own, really you'd fall behind, and it was very difficult to keep up. So I really enjoyed that challenge, and I took that as a good challenge to just actually stick with it. So I kept hitting my temple stances every day and gradually progress. There was a lot of different exercises that we covered, and also Dave would also take his time outside of regular classwork to help me with things specifically, to help me with more self-defense based stuff, because he knew that I was getting ready to go into the Marine Corps and go in the infantry at that. So he took a lot of extra time to help me with staff basics, to help me with other firearms-ish types of things. And every time that I would come back on leave after I went into the Corps, we would work with the things that I was learning through McMap and the things that I was learning with that, and he would give me a little Kung Fu spin on that, right? So he did a really good job at keeping it practical and keeping it applicable. One of the things that I started seeing, as I talk about in my Journey to Thai Massage video, is I really started seeing the health benefit of the Kung Fu practice. I really started seeing the other benefits to my mind, to my mental stability, to my ability to train myself in that aspect. You know, I always laugh and joke because my my platoon sergeant, when I was in Afghanistan, he would always call it his Kung Fu hour. I would always, you know, do my temple stances in the sands of Afghanistan, and he would always sit down, pull a cot up, sit down, eat his chow, and, you know, if he finished eating an apple, he would, you know, toss me the core of that apple. It'd bounce off my head or whatever while I was doing my standing meditation and this and that. And, you know, I think it's funny because, you know, similar to when I started off doing Kung Fu, I had an attitude problem, right? And and so I still had that attitude problem when I was in the Marine Corps. And my staff sergeant, I think, you know, he never actually outright told me this, but now in hindsight, looking back on it, I think this was, you know, really the actual lesson of it, is he would do those things to deliberately push me to actually learn how to control myself. There had been other times that I'd blown up on other people for messing with me while I was doing my meditation and this and that. Yeah, I know, very Zen, right? Totally the point of the training. No, right? But I think it's really funny because he took that, and, you know, I knew that I wasn't going to blow up on somebody who was my senior, who was, you know, superior to me and by rank and every other aspect. And, you know, my staff sergeant, he was a great guy. Staff Sergeant Anstey, really strong dude, tough as nails. He was a staff sergeant at the time. I don't know what rank he actually went up to, but it was him and Simpson, Staff Sergeant, I think now Gunny Simpson, who would really just, you know, kind of take little quips at me. And I think it was great because it showed me how to control myself, and it also helped me to solidify the internal piece of the practice, which really is that self-control, is that mindset aspect, and is that aspect of, okay, how can we actually continue driving forward, even if the stress is either big or small? It doesn't matter. You still have to have that, you know, amount of control in yourself. And so they helped me establish that. Then after I came back, after I got out of the Corps and I started pursuing the massage therapy stuff, then I also kept seeing the deeper aspects of healing and the deeper aspects of not just all of the exercises and chi flow and those sorts of things, but anatomically how that actually transfers over into physiological healing and mental, emotional healing as well. So going through college, that's when I started the Chen Man Ching Tai Chi practice under Tony Zahner, and that helped me soften, relax more. And, you know, I also started doing a bit more of the Yi Chuan practice, standing meditation, in that aspect as well. And I started meeting different friends in the martial art community, not just around Chicago, but also, you know, the Midwest or Michigan and Ohio, Indiana, all those sorts of things. I even did a little bit of Silat Sarak. I don't remember any of that stuff, but it was really cool having, you know, that ability to try out different martial arts, to try and look at different things and see a different path, you know, than just the Kung Fu that I had grown up with. And then after I got done with college, I moved back to Ohio, and you know, I kept training with the Kung Fu practice. And after, or back up a little bit, when I was in college, that's when I actually started being a teacher's assistant for Tony for the Tui Na classes, as well as a tutor for some of the Tai Chi classes. And so, you know, at that point, I really started started teaching and started opening up. When I moved back into Ohio, you know, I started helping Dave with the kids' classes, and then I kept on teaching and kept developing that side of the practice, the teaching side of the practice. And so, you know, from there, after I moved down here to North Carolina, then I started picking up actually a bit of Sistema. I started training some Sistema when I was in college. One of Nick Aristopoulos started introducing some of the Sistema practices that he picked up somewhere, I can't remember. But he started mixing that into our push hands practice. And then, you know, I started looking up Sistema when I came down here to North Carolina. I trained with Mark Jacobson for a few months. I want to say at least 6 months-ish, something like that. Just enough to kind of get a feel for it and really kind of enjoy the breathing exercises and some of the healing practices of Systema and the deeper aspects there. Periodically, I still work on that stuff here and there, but more so just from a healing and a mobility standpoint. Then fast forward a little bit, then as I was teaching down here, I also started training at Hobbs Jackson Wink MMA, did that off and on for about 5 years, and got to, I think I'm maybe a 3-stripe white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so working on those sorts of things was really good, and it really helped me kind of hone in an applicable piece to the practice. It was really funny when I walked in there. I was talking to them about, oh yeah, I've done a little bit of kung fu and this and that, and I think immediately when you look at MMA and boxing, kickboxing, that kind of stuff, it's really easy to like, oh yeah, okay, one of these traditional guys. And especially when it comes to Kung Fu, a lot of times you get a lot of the backlash of, oh no, yeah, he thinks he knows what he's talking about, but really doesn't. And so I get that, and I definitely got my butt handed to me quite a few times, but you just stick with it and you keep on training, and you gradually keep getting better. You find what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and you keep on moving on. And I'm very, very happy and very grateful that they had me there for the amount of time that I was able to train with them. And I still enjoy dabbling in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff, but really my Kung Fu practice is where my heart and my soul is really. And so I continue teaching that, I continue spreading that, but I'm always looking at how do we apply this stuff, and does it make sense? Does it make sense medically? Does it make sense anatomically, physiologically, and with all the foundations that it's supposed to have? Meaning from a Chinese medical standpoint and even a Western anatomical standpoint. So everything that I do in the Kung Fu practice, really, I try and be skeptical, but also give it its due, right? Like my Tai Chi teacher, like Tony, says all the time, Tai Chi has its own face. We have to give it back its own face. And as Master Ong always used to say, when you drink a glass of water, remember where it came from. And so as I teach all these practices, I always like to give people stuff that, hey, this is where I got it. You can seek out the source if you want to. I always say I'm not the best grappler. I'm not the best, kickboxer. I like to think that I can hold my own at least a little bit here and there, and at the very least keep myself well protected. But fighting should always be a last resort. And as you're training, as you're growing, it's the health, it's the healing that not only realistically is going to help you the most over long term, but statistically, you're much more likely to die of something like a heart attack or ill health than you are of an actual fight or altercation. So at the very least, keep yourself healthy, keep yourself balanced, and do the best that you can to avoid those sorts of things as much as you possibly can. And whether that was in combat or here civilian side, that's definitely something that I've always held in the forefront. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that the martial art practice brings up for me, and I always love sharing that sort of thing. If you have any questions at all, leave a comment. I'd love to talk a little bit deeper about these sorts of things. And if you're interested, hit up honesttaichi.com as well as coretaimassage.com. See where we're coming from, see where I'm coming from, and hopefully I will see you in class or see you on the table soon. Take it easy. Peace.